Hello, welcome to the Ultimate Business Transformation Show. I'm your host, Mark Weisenberger. I'm here with Mark Hatch of the Hatch Insurance Group, and we just wanted to touch base with you today. And I was visiting with Mark a little bit today, and he said he could share a lot of failures with you. And so we may be here for 3 or 4 days, so prepare yourself. But Mark, welcome to the show. And would you just introduce yourself a little bit? Your personal life, business life a little bit before we get into the questions, because we do like to know the man behind the business as well.
Be happy to. My name is Mark Hatch. I've been in the insurance business for almost 25 years now. I'm the owner of the Hatch Insurance Group. We're an independent insurance agency. We're here headquartered in Draper, Utah. We have clients in 48 states. Personally, I'm married, have 6 kids ranging from 31 to 10, and live 5 minutes from my office, so I like my commute.
Well, sorry, but I have a better commute. It's 2 flights of stairs. So, and I'm glad you have the 10-year-old, not me. I'm through with that stage. So, hey, Mark.
10-year-old twins.
10-year-old twins.
Twins, yes, yeah.
Okay, well, now I'm really glad it's you. Hey, but let's get started here, and just tell us a little bit. How did you get started? Get started in your own business. Did you just wake up one day out of? You said you've been doing this how long?
About 25 years.
25 years. So did you just graduate from high school and then just start doing this?
No, and it's funny, most people in the insurance business don't mean to be in the insurance business. You get into it by accident. But when I graduated from college, I graduated with a degree in international finance from Brigham Young University, and had a job opportunity in Manhattan. So I moved to New York City from here and worked a couple years there. The intention was for me to actually go and run the Beijing office of the insurance company that hired me. I spoke Mandarin Chinese. I don't speak Mandarin Chinese anymore. But the intention was that I would learn the insurance business very quickly, and then I'd go run that branch. Well, as it turned out, in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, things in China were moving very, very slowly. And so as we were doing various parts of our business, we had purchased 7 companies throughout Europe. And they asked me if I wanted to help go run the holding company in London. And 26-year-old kid, I'm like, yes, would you like me to leave this afternoon or tomorrow? And so anyway, I got a chance to go run an insurance company in London, England for 2.5 years. It was a fabulous learning curve, very, very steep learning curve, but I learned a lot, and to this day, I still use examples of that. We were located just down the street from Lloyd's of London, and so I was very involved with the syndicates and doing all that. It was a great experience, and that's what really kind of dumped me into the insurance business. And so I learned from the company side, and then a few years later, I met a friend of mine here back in Salt Lake, where I grew up, and he learned about my background, and he says, "Why on earth aren't you selling insurance?" And I was scared to death. I was like, "Sell something? I can't sell? Gee, I'd be too afraid to do that." Well, he said, "Look, let's get you started." So I did that, and we actually worked for his agency for about 9 years, and then decided it was time to open my own business, and that's what I did about 15 years ago, I guess it was. And actually partnered up with a guy who just did life and health, and so that way we had a full service agency. And about 4 years ago, he mentioned to me that he wanted to retire. I said, "Sounds like a great plan." So then I was the sole owner, so I decided to change the name to Hatch Insurance Group, put my name on the door so I knew where to come to work in the morning, and here we are. Bought some office space, and that's how I got here.
Good. Well, yeah, see, that's what I've done. I've named my company after myself so that I know where to show up to. And that getting into insurance by accident, I understand that. My wife actually worked in insurance for many years, and it was purely by accident. So she started out as a receptionist and then moved on. So, but with this, did you, it sounds like you had some pretty instant success as a youngster working for who was that in New York, and then.
Yeah, the name of the insurance company was Continental Insurance Company. And quite frankly, I think the reason that I had some success there was that I am not the bureaucratic corporate kind of guy who deals with turf battles and the rest. I used to just go get stuff done. And I found that the people at the executive level loved that some young whippersnapper was coming in here changing things. And I think they saw that and saw, hey, this kid's got some potential. Let's throw him in the deep end, which, going to London to run a business at age 26, that was a big deal. And it was way over my head, but I learned and I figured it out and we made it happen. And so, I think a lot of it was that I'm not really a corporate kind of guy, So.
Okay, great. And so with that, when you opened up your own agency, were things just smooth sailing, or did you have some failures in there and challenges? And what was your biggest failure?
Well, the biggest failure, the biggest failure is kind of hard to measure exactly what it is. I guess part of it for me, I'm such an ROI guy. How much money am I putting in and how much am I getting back? And, I guess if there are failures along the way, it was largely due to advertising. I've found that for me, advertising doesn't seem to pay back. Or at least I don't know how to measure how it pays back. And I've made some pretty long-term advertising commitments with folks that it was like, maybe my name's out there. We got a little brand recognition, but I'm not sure we got any business out of it. And so that was certainly a challenge. And right out of the chutes, though, it's always a challenge. You're showing up every day, and you gotta thicken your skin. You gotta be able to accept a lot of rejection in my business.
Yeah, yes, you do. And as far as that ROI goes in advertising, that's a major problem most businesses have. And there's a number of reasons for that. So we can help you with that.
Okay.
So,
I'm always learning.
but speaking about that, you were sharing an interesting story with me earlier, and I'll confess, I got into the life insurance industry when I was a young kid, and it wasn't by accident. Mm-hmm. But it was an accident. So for me, and I did a lot of cold calling and things like that. But you kind of told me a story that you didn't really have to do any of that. So what's the secret of success behind that?
Well, here's the secret sauce. Just so you know, I've been in business now 25 years. I never made a cold call. For one, I hate doing it. I don't like calling somebody out of the blue who doesn't know me. I hate it when someone cold calls me. That's just painful for me too. And so I decided early on I was going to reach out to people I knew, friends, family, associates, golf buddies, whoever it was, and tell them what I do and try and work the referral leads. And that is what's given us the success, is truly, if I'm coming in on a referral, I'm going to close that deal. A very, very good chance we're going to get that. Our close ratio is out over the top. We're well into the 90 percentile, just simply because, if someone has put their neck on the line to say, hey, Mark Hatch is a good guy, you should do business with him, we're likely going to close that business. And I've also had quite a bit of success with networking, various networking organizations here in Salt Lake and nationwide, and that's kind of the same idea. I've got people who I've learned to, who trust me, who I've met and understand me, and they then refer us in, and we end up closing a lot higher percentage than just somebody picking up the phone and saying, hey, here I am, will you buy some insurance from me? And so.
Yeah, exactly. So my personal opinion is cold calling doesn't work. It's just for those that like to beat their head against the wall, and they enjoy the pain and frustration of that.
It's interesting. I know people who like that. They've told me that. Have a good friend, commercial real estate agent. She told me she loves to make cold calls, and I'm like, really? Are you okay? That's not fun. But, it's different for everybody, and that just happened to be me. That's what worked for me, is that it was find people who know me, trust me, and let them introduce me to their friends. And that's how we've grown our business.
Great. Yeah, I have a real estate friend that he loves cold calling, and I think he's a little sick. But speaking of referrals, do you have for lack of better terminology, a system for getting referrals? Or if you sell me insurance, you say, hey, Mark, give me a referral when you get a chance, or is there a real system behind that?
Kind of, yeah. I try not to make it too stringent because it comes across as too forced. But we make it a very important point that every client we're asking for other referrals from all of our clients. And then as we go to a networking event or we go to meet people socially, we make sure they know what we do and look for opportunities there. So we definitely have a process for tracking it, because I always want to be able to send a thank you back to someone who's given me a referral. If I've written their friend's insurance, I'm going to thank the person that referred them to me. And so we keep a close eye on who gives us the referrals and how that all works. So that's worked.
Great, thanks. And I appreciate the comment on sending the thank you note, because I am big on that. And I think a lot of business owners, they just kind of take things for granted. And in today's technology, they think, well, I'll send an email. But excuse me, but we all know that like 15%, if we're lucky, of emails get opened.
Exactly.
And, we have good intentions of coming back and reading it, but we don't. And so I appreciate that.
I'll tell you an interesting part to that. I actually used to send email thank yous. And then I looked at my own inbox, which was totally overwhelming. And I thought, I'm just adding to somebody else's pain by adding to their inbox. And so we have ordered little blank thank you cards, and I handwrite thank you notes to people and put them in the mail, old style snail mail, but it shows up. And I've had people who have subsequently called me back and said, wow, thank you. You took the time to write a note. And so that's how we do it.
Yeah, and that's great. And I use a lot of thank you notes. And something I've found interesting with thank you notes is I've walked into an office 3 and 4 months later, and there's my thank you note on the wall or on the desk right next door to the family picture. Yeah. And I'm thinking, wow, for $1, I get to hang out with the family.
Yeah, it pays off. It's beneficial. It's worked for us.
Okay, so to help our audience with their insurance, I'd just like to ask you a couple of questions on that. One, and I'm going to share both of them here, and then you can take them in whatever order you feel is appropriately to answer. But one is, what is the biggest tip you can give a business owner that is looking for a high-quality insurance program? And then also, I was watching a video of yours where you talk about cybersecurity and the risks small business owners have, and I think a lot of small business owners really have no clue. They've never been educated on that. So would you talk to us a little bit about that as well?
How much time have we got? This could take a while. Now, on your first question first, the piece of advice I give to a lot of business owners is insurance is price sensitive. So many people are looking for the cheapest policy out there, and there's a reason that it's the cheapest policy out there. There are a lot more exclusions. In insurance companies are infamous for giving you something on page 2 of the policy and taking it away on page 48. And so, be careful to not just say, I want the cheapest thing and buy it. Find an advisor who can come to you with 3 or 4 options and explain the difference so that you're making a business decision about buying your insurance. Don't just make it a transactional, whoever's the cheapest gets my business this year. So that would be the first piece. With regards to cyber, it is a huge issue today. There are the cyber attacks that are going on. We all hear about the big ones. We all hear about Target and Home Depot and TJ Maxx and things of that nature. But what we don't hear about are the small businesses that get hit, because a cyber attack will take a small business completely out of business if they're not protected. Right now, in fact, the average cost of business having their data hacked into is $275 per account that gets hacked. So, if you have 1,000 clients in your database, I hope you got $275,000 sitting in the bank, because the cost of not only fixing your own system, but because you've got a big hole in your system now, the hacker just came through. But if people's personal data is compromised, you've got to pay for their credit monitoring for 1 to 3 years. Depending on your business, you could be fined by both the federal and state government. There are various financial organizations that will fine people. There's the PCI compliance issue if you're taking credit cards. There are a lot of issues that adds up very quickly. In fact, I had a client here about 9 months ago that had a ransom virus. And so they were hit with this ransom, and they wanted to be paid in bitcoins, the hacker did. first off, my client had to figure out how do you get Bitcoins. And so
What is a Bitcoin, right?
what is a Bitcoin? Well, they got that, and then they paid it. And of course, the hackers came back and said, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't this amount, it was this amount. So they wanted more. But by far, the biggest cost was the damage control they had to do. The public relations disaster it could be if you don't protect yourself from cyber risk. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand, too, is they think that this is such an expensive thing. It's not. I mean, people will pay a couple $100 a month for a $1 million policy. And boy, that's going to keep you in business if you ever get your data hacked. So cyber, I've told many clients, cyber is the future. You know, we think about insurance, and what we do is we don't answer. Sorry, somebody's calling to buy insurance. And so,
Didn't mean to have them do that.
I recognize the caller ID on there. But what I think is that people buy insurance because they're thinking fires and theft and workers' comp and auto damages and auto accidents, things like that. My opinion, I think the future, people are going to look at cyber attacks, and that's going to be what's happening, is that they're going to see so many of these coming through that they've got to find protection. And even IT people will tell you, there are easy ways to get through, especially a small business. You know, we've got a little firewall and a little bit of protection here and there. I mean, we're not a Target, who has major protection, and they got hacked. And so the small businesses don't appreciate what a huge risk that is.
Yeah, and I actually have a friend that is in the business of helping small business owners prevent cyber attacks like that. His background is, and I'm not going to use any company names or business names, but this company had a military contract with the government. And he was sitting there and he said, "You're vulnerable." And the company said, "No, we've got this, we've done that, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Give me a computer." And he was in their system in like 5 minutes or less.
It's so easy.
And,
yeah, you're right.
But here's the thing. I asked him, well, I'm just a small guy. And so you may just be a small guy, so who's looking for you? And his response is that the small business owner and even individual is more at risk than the large companies, because most of these cyber attacks happen from outside the United States. And if they can get $200 a day, that's a fortune for them in their country.
This client of mine that needed to pay in Bitcoins, the hacker asked for $500. And I told my client, I said, pay it, $500, that's easy. And the second time they came back for $1,000. And so, it could have been, $1 million they were asking for, but they just don't, they're not expecting that number. But, the cost is all of your other damage, getting yourself back up to speed. My client happened to they didn't have access to their data for 2.5 weeks. I mean, there are a lot of companies who would be out of business if they had lost all their client data for 2.5 weeks. And so it's a huge risk for small businesses that, we're all dealing with all of our other things we deal with in small businesses. Cyber isn't always the top of the list, but it's truly a catastrophic coverage you want to be carrying.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of referrals, if you're with the business that gets hacked, you're going to tell 200 of your friends.
That's right.
And so the business themselves, just from poor publicity from their clients, are going to go out of business.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you being on the show today, Mark, and we'll wrap it up. But just if anyone has any insurance questions for you, how do they get a hold of you?
Like I mentioned, we're here in Draper. Our direct line, if you want to make a phone call to us, is 801-901-2184. My personal email, if you'd like to contact me directly, is mark@hatch-insurance.com. And we're 24/7 guys. You can reach us at any time. We always pick up our phones.
Except today. So, but you did. I'll also put that information in the show notes, so it's very easy for you to see that rather than having to hurry and try to write that down and figure it out. But again, appreciate it. And if you have any marketing questions, make sure to send those to support@markweisenberger.com, and we'll make a podcast out of it. I'll respond to you personally or do whatever needs to be done to answer that for you. So thank you, and talk to you later.